what I'm going to do now, it's so let's imagine that now we want to work with this data that is in SQL. We want to bring it to a Python world, and we want to do a lot of let's say analysis. We want to do more work within Python. But now the data it's in the database. So what I'm going to do is bring data from Postgres SQL into Python and visualize. It's a bit of what we're trying to do here. I'm going to import probably the same information that I have here before. Same thing. Probably I don't need the table, column, strings, all this information. I just need to, in some manners, some way to import the data into pandas and so on. So it's okay if I need the pandas, see some plots, credentials, and SQL Alchemy. And one thing that we will need for sure is establish a connection to a database. So all these bit that I wrote here, I will still need when I move to the new book, to the new notebook, to read the database. Okay. Just a second, just preparing mine. Okay. Now I have a query, and let's do exactly what I did here, which is using select from production, and I want to use, let's say this is my query, and I want to select all the columns from production back into Python, right? So now we want to bring all the information from the database into Python. Again, pandas is super useful for that. So this is the other way around. Now we're going to read from pandas. Instead of push to SQL, we want to read underscore SQL, and I can specify the query, and I can specify which engine I want to run, which is this one that I already specified before. Okay. And now it's reading all the database. It just was super fast to read, and if I show you the head. Yeah, now I'm reading back the data into Python. So I'm just showing you, first of all, how you push it for the first time, how you build your database, and the next time, how to read the database. And why would you like to do? Why would you like to write all this code to write your own database? Because as the data changes, you want to have a data pipeline to continuously push new data into the database. And then this other side is you have already a database, you want to use the database information to do whatever you want to do. Okay? So now I have the data back from the database into Python. And let's make sure that I have the same size that I have before. I can do a bit of data exploration. And it's the same size with the number of columns that I had before. Now I have an index as well. And all is fine. And let me get the well names, because I will need them in a bit. And it's bit prod, and I want the well, and I want this, the unique value of those wells. All right, so I have a well names stored there. And just as a reminder what columns I have in there, because I probably will need them in a bit. Okay, these are the columns that I have in there. So I'm going to create a little function here. So we've seen how I could create a query, but I want to create a query that is more flexible. I don't want to bring all the data into a pandas. Let's imagine that we're talking about big data here, and we're talking about real-time information, and we want to just bring, for instance, the production information for a well that is at a frequency of a minute from an asset that has 100 wells. So let's imagine that we have the data in a data historian. I don't want to bring all the data into a pandas. I don't want to do this. I don't want to bring all the data into a pandas data frame, and perhaps my machine won't be able to handle it. I just want to bring the exact amount of data that we need. So I'm going to create a function to create a custom query. And this is going to be a small function where I'm going to just specify which table I want to bring and which quantity I want to bring. Nothing more than that. So let's start with that. And my query now would be something like this one. Let me copy this couple of lines. And so I know that I want to bring now, not this star means everything. So for instance, if I go here and I want to bring only oil production or oil volume, I can write here oil volume and run this. And there we go. We have the oil volume. I can also bring, let's say, the well, the dates, and the oil volume from the database, right? Or in the other case, I want to bring the well names from the well meta. And there we go. So I want to execute those queries. So I only bring exactly the same amount of information that I want from Python. Sorry, from SQL. So let's add here in the middle this quantity. And let's have a flexibility to bring also this quantity closes here, this quantity closes here. Oh, sorry, this have to be I'm using double quotes. Don't know why. I prefer single quotes, but there we go. And I want to bring also some sort of production. Instead of production, I want to bring table. So I have this customized, and let me call it something else, the ftemp. And this function, I want to return the temporary data that I have query. Okay. So if I run that query, custom query, and I ask for my well meta, and I want to ask for the well, so I have the same query that I have in SQL Alchemy. But now this is bringing the data straight away from SQL into Python. I'm not bringing data anymore from the pandas. So production, and I want to bring the bottom hole pressure. There we go. There we go. That's the bottom hole pressure for all the wells, of course. It's not only for only one well, but I can bring also the well, and I can bring also the dates, which lead me to believe that this should be called quantities. rather than quantity. Oops. Probably this code. There we go. There we go. So we have a well, dates, bottom hole pressure, super fast. I'm not even touching pandas. I'm not even reading the whole data into pandas. Okay. If I can be even more specific, and let me just do this. I'm going to add just a well name, and apart from the table here, I want to bring the data. I want to do this. I want to bring, let's say, the well, dates, oil volume from production, where the well has a name that is similar to, and this is just a bit of a SQL, so I have to put within this, I want to bring the production, for instance, for this well, all the production for this well. So I can put that name in there, and hopefully, boom, there we have. So we have now dates, well, dates, and oil volume for that well. In fact, if I know the name of a well, I probably don't need to bring even the well name. Is that clear? So how I'm slicing and dicing very quickly data from SQL back into Python. It's really powerful. So I want to do this bit where to all this bit. I'm gonna paste everything in here, and let me use, just to be consistent. Let's leave it like that for the time being. Of course, I want to now be able to put here the name of a well, right? I want to be able to do that. And I think I need to do something like this here. Let me put it here. Okay. So I'm using here I use a single percentage, but I have to use double percentage here. Same reason that I was using row before, because I need Python reads a percentage as a special character. So I need to use the double percentage to make sure that it reads it as a percentage. So if I do that, and now here I introduce the well name that I want to bring, and let me replicate exactly this example. I want to bring this well name. Whoops. Okay, what's happening here? This takes two positions. Okay, I have to rerun this function. That's scary. Is something wrong here with the names? It doesn't seem to like the way I put it in there. Let me see. This is from select quantities. Not quite sure what's happening there. Oh, of course. It has to be on the other side. There we go. And I don't want, as I mentioned, I don't want to bring the well name because I know the well name. There we are. There we go. So, and the last thing that I'm going to show on this particular notebook is I want to make a plot out of this data, a bit of interactive plot, rather than filtering the data frame. I want to bring data real time into Python and filter the data. So I can use the IPy widgets, and actually from this import. I think I can import interact, and I'm going to also import matplotlib. Right, so I'm going to make a very simple plot in my plot. So what I would like to do is using interact, a certain level of interactivity. I want to be able, let's define a function where I can plot the well data, and I want to pass whatever quantity I want. Quantity. In fact, I want to pass. Yeah, let's leave it as it is. I want to pass whatever quantity I want among all these quantities. Among among which quantities? Among all these quantities, tubing head pressure, bottom hole pressure, oil volume, all these. I want to be able to pass any of those. And I want to also be able to pass the name of a well from the well names. Okay. So I'm going to execute this custom query and return that temporary data frame. So the F is equal to this custom query. And if I put exactly what I put here, I want to return from the production data, I want to return a quantity, because that's what I want to do, quantity. I'm going to put underscore X and well underscore X, just to make sure that you realize that this is part of what I'm passing within the function, X. Okay. And I'm going to store it in a data frame. And every time I do that, I want to plot the, and actually I need to get also, let's edit this, and I want to pass a quantity, but also I need to pass the dates for sure. And every time I pass that, I want to plot the dates, and I want to plot also the F, the quantity X. See if that works. Okay, there we go. So we have a well. We have a quantity here. If I change the quantity, that changes in there. And I don't know if I can see here, if there is any way to see, yeah, something, what's going on here. But this tells you when I'm hitting the database. As you can see at the moment, nothing is happening. And I can put this in here and actually show you this in here. So if I change a well, something happened here. Nothing seemed to happen. Well, this is not hitting the database at the moment. Let's see other thing. Okay, here we go. I'm changing now some of the queries. I'm not quite sure, but it should show how many transactions I'm sending. I guess it's not measuring the transactions that are going from Python. Yeah, I would have believed that those are the ones measured as well. But there you go. We are actually executing a query live. I can select what I'm exactly bringing. In this case, oil volume, water volume, for whatever well. So for instance, I have a well F5. F5, it's an injector. It's injecting some amount of water for some time, and but it was also a producer. So it was actually an injector that was switched to a producer. And I think that's an F4. Let's see, F4 as well seems to be like a water injector as well in there. Questions? Comments? So where do you think that you could apply this? If the SQL database is updated real time, the SQL is pretty much live in the server. So if I push data into a SQL database, and if I query the data from here, I'll get the new data. It's a server that it's there alive and waiting for requests. Well, I guess I want, yeah. If you can link it with ProSource SLB or IP. I'm not quite sure. It's you mean you bringing data from IP into Python? Is it a SQL database? Oh yeah. As long as you have the credentials to connect, you should be able to connect and bring data. And yeah, that's a good idea. The other thing that you could do is bring, for instance, IP data. I know, no IP, sorry, PI data. So like real-time data that it's in the data historians. And you don't want to bring everything. You just want to bring some pieces of the information. So you can connect to those. Probably not exactly as I show you, but you can once you connect and bring the data, you can just work on the function that it's bringing just a piece of information that you're doing. Because usually you have like apps in Excel that can slice and dice the data that you want for certain periods of time. But you can bypass those and bring all the data inside Python straight away.